The goal is more important than the role. On law number 2 of teamwork, that is the law of the big picture. And the law of the big picture says goal is more important than the role. Kind of consumed with our job, and we get consumed with our role, and we become what I call role conscious instead of goal conscious. The goal is more important than the role. What I want you to understand about this law is that anytime you lose perspective, anytime you fail to see the big picture, almost always you fall into the rut of feeling that what you're doing is most important. When we fail to see the big picture, when we lose perspective, almost always we'll put our role above the team's goal. My role as a team member must always submit to the goal of the team. Classic illustration. The Los Angeles Lakers this year won the NBA World Championship. They have 2 great players, Kobe and Shaq. Now, these 2 players probably, arguably, are the 2 best players in the NBA. But throughout the season, much of the year, they didn't win. They weren't very successful. They had a little bit of a winning record, but everybody knew they weren't reaching their potential. You know why? Because Shaq and Kobe were arguing over their role on the team. They were arguing who the star was and who was the player that really made it happen. Now, as they got close to the playoffs, they settled their differences, they put them aside, and they began to play team ball. And all of a sudden, they went on a winning streak that broke a playoff record. Why? I can tell you what happened. What happened was these 2 highly individually gifted, talented ball players understood that their role was not as important as the goal of winning a championship. If you are a person that thinks that you lead by position, and I run into people like this all the time, they say, well, you know, I'm the president of the company. Well, it's my title. It's my job. And if you're a position kind of a leader, let me say something to you. You're going to always be into the role. And you're always going to be saying, well, now you follow me because you're under me, and here's where I am, and here's where you are on the pole. And you will always be putting your role up ahead of the goal. And great leaders often submit their role as a leader in a servant's way to someone else to facilitate and add value to the team. I call this the myth of the head table. There's a myth that says basically if you sit at a head table, if I happen to be the leader of this organization, this company, and this is my head table chair, you know, it's kind of the end of the table, whatever, it kind of means that I'm always leading. Here's what I want you to understand. There's no such thing as a head table where the leader always leads. When I submit my role as the designated leader to someone else because they're going to do a better job than I am, and I must understand it's the goal of the team that's more important than my role as a leader. So in your notes, here's the way this works. A servant leader, and I think this is the best way to describe what I'm trying to teach in law number 2. A servant leader serves the mission and leads by serving those on the mission with him. The law of the big picture basically says successful teams look up at the big picture. That's the first thing they do. Then they size up their situation. Then they line up the needed resources. Then they call up the right team members. Then they give up their personal agenda. And then they step up to the next level. When you see the big picture correctly, you will serve the team more quickly. And then there's always a question in each one of these laws. And here's the question for the big picture. Do I place the team above myself? Do I place the team above myself? The goal is more important than the role.